What is your plan for helping FCPS prepare for the new Kentucky Core Academic Standards, Senate Bill 1 implementation, and the new end-of-course assessments, which will begin in the 2011-2012 school year?
My role in that would be, if coming in, if I'm selected to be superintendent, would be to support the plan that is in place and to make sure that it happens. There's a plan that's been put in place by the board and the current administration to make sure that staff are trained on the new standards, to make sure that each school has a means to know that the lessons are being planned and units are being planned using those standards, and that we're preparing for the assessment that will be based on those standards. And throughout the district, what the superintendent's role would be to make sure that through the central office staff and through the building level administration that those plans are carried out efficiently and effectively, and the resources are provided to make sure that it happens the way it should.
What experience have you had in improving a staff ratio that reflects the diversity of the student population?
That's an issue that we've dealt with continually in my current district, and it's something that we continue to try to work on. I've been very blessed to have community partners in my current district who've helped in that means. Have a great relationship with our minority leadership and all of our community supporters and partners in our district. And so I was able to go to them and say, hey, we need to work together to come up with a common solution here and to be able to be on the same page. We need to put plans in place where we can develop our own potential educators through our students. We need to make sure that those students have opportunities to go on to post-secondary education and training. We need to make sure that we have recruiting means in place for existing staff needs, and then ultimately we have to again be able to sit down at the table as members of the community as well as members of the school district and say, this is important, this is something kids need to see, that we need to have the same type of diversity in our staff as we do within our student population.
How do you plan to ensure that children with special needs are able to achieve and to succeed?
Well, the main way that we do that is by focusing on strategies that are brought about through a process known as RTI, or response to intervention, that has been put in place from the first standpoint to look at, okay, if a student is identified as potentially having special needs or areas of concern in learning, that we need to make sure that we put in appropriate strategies to try to address those so that we can allow that student's educational experience to be as normal as possible. If we continue on and the student does have a particular physical or emotional need and we have to target specific services, and those become more intense, but the real focus has to be on looking at each individual child and making sure that they have those supports necessary. There's processes in place to make sure that happens, and as a district, special education is a district program that we have to make sure meets all the guidelines, but first and foremost meets the needs of students.
How will your past experiences and understandings of what goes on in the classroom help our many students with such diverse needs, and what do you do or would do differently that has not already been tried here?
As I look at this district, there are so many different strategies and things that are being tried. It's unbelievable to me, and that again goes back to the resources and opportunities in a community like Lexington, Fayette County, which all of you need to be proud of. Was able today to get to travel around the district a little bit and look at the new pre-veterinary center, where the students are going to have an opportunity to learn. I've learned a lot about the Performing Arts Academy. I've learned about the Middle College Initiative and so many different things that are out there. So the first thing that it would do would be to look at what programs and opportunities are here, which ones are working, which ones are successful, how do we build on that. If some things need to be tweaked or changed, then how do we go about that process involving the right stakeholders in that conversation. But ultimately, we have to be flexible and recognize that the world is changing very rapidly, and so therefore students' needs change correspondingly, and so we have to make sure that we're flexible enough to adjust to that, because we're preparing kids for jobs that don't even exist today. And as we look at the fact that the track to move kids toward college and career is basically merged, and students need similar skills no matter which direction they move. Our job is to prepare kids to be able to survive in that type of world.
Let's talk about gifted and talented students. FCPS provides unique and rigorous opportunities for students identified both academically in the arts field as being gifted. What have you done in the past to support appropriate services for gifted students in the districts you served, and what goals do you have in mind in order for FCPS gifted students with the services they need?
First thing I would say is just reiterate what I said earlier, that I believe all students should have the opportunity to learn, and all students can achieve at high levels. And the reason I say that is that goes for whether a student is a special needs student that has an IEP or a 504 plan, or it goes up to a student who's designated as gifted and talented. We have to make sure we meet all of those students' needs individually. And so just like we have to look at the individual needs of a student with disabilities, we have to look at the individual needs for a gifted student and make sure we have a learning plan in place where they can grow and thrive and achieve. So what we've done in our district is we've gone with a model where each of our elementary schools has a staff person who's designated half-time as a master teacher, instructional coach, and half-time to work with and facilitate our gifted program in those schools. And we have similar positions in the middle and high schools. And we make sure that the gifted service plans are monitored and students have those opportunities to participate in signature events and to grow and learn as they meet their needs and meet their expectations.
An increased number of students have not been successful in a traditional school setting, so how do you see alternative education as a viable way of reaching the needs of students in this situation and reducing this number of school dropouts?
You've touched on one of my favorite areas. I actually want to say that, first of all, I try not to call it alternative education, because I believe that's got a somewhat of a bad connotation or bad label to it that's been unfair. I like to call it non-traditional education because I believe it comes in a lot of different varieties and forms, because just as many needs as there are for students, there needs to be that many different opportunities in non-traditional education. Could be a student needs credit recovery opportunities. It could mean that a student has special disciplinary needs or counseling needs. It could be that they need to be able to work part of the day and go to school part-time. We've done that in our district. We have an opportunity for students to go mornings, afternoon, or evenings, and then to work in the alternating times. It could be that we need to make sure that they have more opportunities to be involved in field-based learning experiences or college-based learning experiences. So to me, all of those encompass what I call non-traditional education. We've had a big focus on that because we have to recognize that more and more, as students' needs become more diverse, we have to meet their needs where they are.
How will you work to ensure that every student has the benefit of a high-quality teacher?
Well, quality instruction, to me, as I alluded to earlier, is the most important thing that we can bring to the table as a school district. We have to make sure our teachers are well prepared, they have the right resources, the right training and professional development, because every one of us can think about who those best teachers that we've had or that we've seen are, and we want everybody to be able to experience that. And so as a district, we have to ensure that we are providing the right types of training and support and resources so that each teacher can get better, and we can look at even our best teachers. They'll have a drive and a move to try to improve, but then as you move across the continuum, we have to have individual strategies, just like we do for students. To meet their needs, we have to do the same thing for teachers.
Let's revisit school dropout. What was the high school dropout rate in the last 3 years in your school district? And if it decreased, to what do you attribute that success and improvement?
Well, our dropout rate is less than 1%, and has been for each of the last 3 years in our district. And I attribute that predominantly to two things. Number one is the fact that we are focused on providing relevant, engaging instruction in the regular classroom so that students understand why they're learning what they're learning and what they're focused on in their schools. But the second thing is the non-traditional opportunities that I mentioned earlier. We're catching a lot of the kids that would have dropped out. For example, our Beacon High School, which we put in place in the late 90s, we just this past week on Friday night graduated 106 kids, and most every one of them would tell you they would have been the dropouts if we had not provided those opportunities for them. So we take a lot of pride in having a very low dropout rate. We know that you can start identifying students very early, probably as early as elementary school, but certainly by middle school when they start disengaging. So we try to first do an early identification and then put the right opportunities in front of them so that we can keep them on track toward graduation.
Can you speak to your visions of how technology should be incorporated in the classroom?
You probably picked another one of my favorite subjects there. I'm kind of known as a technology geek. Most people that know me, I know that I always have the most recent gadgets everywhere I go, and I'm usually trying to find new ways to use them. I believe technology is real and is where our students are today. I mean, it's the world that they live in. It's somewhat, I know, difficult to make that transition and change to incorporate technology into instruction because it really should be a tool to aid in instruction. It should not be what drives instruction. But to give an example, our high schools in my district currently, we have a one-to-one laptop initiative where all of our students have a laptop computer 24/7. We do that for a number of reasons. One, to level the playing field so that all kids have the same opportunities and access to information and to the world. But the second reason is to help them be more productive and prepared citizens, because we know that's the world they're going to be dealing with when they come out. One of the areas that we're struggling with there is how we use more of the internet-based tools and the social networking things and how those fit within the classroom. And we're dealing with those issues on a daily basis almost. I'm a strong advocate of social networking and the power that can be gained from that with students, but it's something we have to be very careful of and work with. But I believe technology is a reality, and if we don't help kids use it the correct way, then in my mind we're missing an opportunity.